What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, back with another NFL video. In this video, I'm going to react and analyze Chris Sims' top 40 quarterback list of 2021. Every season, Chris Sims breaks down his top 40 quarterbacks in order from number 40 all the way to number 1, going in depth on these players, these quarterbacks, and giving you his list on his preference for the best quarterbacks in football from number 40 to number 1. So in this video, I'm going to react to that list, give you my thoughts on the list. Obviously, I'm a fan of Chris's. I follow his podcast. I think it's one of the best podcasts for football for the NFL out there. Definitely recommend it, as Chris Sims always brings his unfiltered and genuine opinion. You may disagree with it, but that's what he does. So that's definitely why I take some stock into this list. I know he studies the game. I know he knows the game. And that's why I put some stock into this list, definitely. And it's always nice to hear a different opinion. I did my top quarterbacks in the NFL currently. Every starting quarterback, I ranked every single one. So you know where I stand. But where does Chris Sims stand? And that's what I'm going to do. Break it down here and tell you if I think he's right, if I think he's wrong, a genius, or an idiot. So let's break down Chris Sims' top 40 quarterbacks of 2021. All right, here we are, Chris Sims' top 40 quarterbacks of 2021. It's important to know how Chris actually creates this list in the first place so you understand his criteria. So the way Chris looks at this list is putting every quarterback within the same system, with the same supporting cast, same coaches, same receivers, same everything, putting them in that situation from number 1 to number 40. So this is essentially a fantasy draft of his favorite quarterback all the way to his 40th favorite quarterback in pro football. That's the way he orders this list. So let's start off at the top, because I think that's kind of where everybody wants to know who's at the top. That's Patrick Mahomes at number 1. Chris and I agree that Mahomes is currently the best quarterback in football entering 2021. I personally felt that it was a debate between Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers for who was the best. I went with Mahomes because I feel Mahomes has proven he's a bit more clutch nowadays. Mahomes has been able to consistently, when the game is on the line, make those big-time plays, those big-time throws. And I feel that Chris feels that Mahomes maybe is just a little bit physically more gifted at this point than Rodgers. Rodgers is a little bit older. And it's surprising to me when I first saw his list that Aaron Rodgers is number 3 below Josh Allen. But that's his same explanation for why Josh Allen is number 2. That Josh Allen is probably physically the most gifted quarterback in the league, I think you could argue. Mahomes is a bit smarter than Allen, but Allen could get there. Allen has the best arm in the league. And I don't know if there's really a debate for that. I guess the only guy really in that conversation is Mahomes himself. But Josh Allen is his running game. He is the Buffalo Bills. So I totally get the number 2 ranking. I just think he needs to prove more for me to put him that high over Rodgers, over Mahomes. I had him at number 3. He has Deshaun Watson on the list at number 4. That's understandable. I did not put Deshaun Watson on my list at all because I just don't want to talk about him right now, and I don't feel he's going to play this season. So that being said, I don't think he's going to be on the Texans, and that's why he's not on my list. But I can get why you would put him on the list because he's still technically quarterback in the NFL, but I would have just avoided the situation altogether. Aaron Rodgers again at number 3. I still got to talk about it because this is his guy. Like, Sims loves Aaron Rodgers, like, more than any person I've ever seen. Like, Aaron Rodgers is, to him, the GOAT, which I completely disagree with, but that's his opinion, and Aaron Rodgers is number 3 to him. I'm surprised because he just won the MVP. He went to the NFC Championship game, had some team success, had some individual success. I will say with Aaron Rodgers, his team is very good around him. He has an excellent wide receiver, arguably the best in football. He has one of the best offensive lines, at least last year. He had arguably the best center, arguably the best left tackle, arguably a top 10 running back, arguably the best corner, and arguably, one of the best safety duos. So he had a lot of elite around him as well. And LaFleur had an elite system, I felt, last year. I was really surprised, not just by Rodgers' ability to up his game, But LaFleur, that system, really shocked me how much better it got last year. And just from a play calling standpoint, very efficient. So number 5, he has Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, I would not rank at number 5. Obviously, you guys know I have Tom Brady at number 4, is it? Tom Brady to me is a top 5 quarterback. There is no debate about it. And this is where I really disagree with Chris the most. I will say this. Chris, for whatever reason, has never been a Brady guy. He claims to not hate on Brady, but it's very hard to understand that he doesn't hate Brady because he probably doesn't hate him personally, but it just feels like he has something against the guy because he continues to prove it year after year. I understand he was on a great team. I picked them to win the Super Bowl before the season started. Now, Chris, you didn't. You didn't even pick the Bucs to make the playoffs. So obviously something happened there. Obviously, Tom Brady elevated that team in your mind to make them worthy of the Super Bowl championship. I will remind you that he had one of the best playoff runs of all time in terms of the teams he beat and who they beat, but also in terms of his statistical production. If you look up the stats, he's right alongside many other Tom Brady seasons and other seasons. Best playoff runs of all time. It's in the top 10. He was in a new system with a new coach who I felt their coaching staff for a lot of the season actually dragged Brady down. Bruce Arians sucked for a majority of the year with the play calling, as well as Byron Leftwich with the play calling, with the scheme, with the preparing their team. And it felt like it took a lot of time and almost felt like Tom Brady stepped in there at the end. I don't know this as personal knowledge, so I won't say necessarily that's what happened, but that's almost what felt like it happened. Especially in the playoffs even, you could say that Leftwich didn't really call a good game in the NFC Championship. If it weren't for Brady making throw after throw after throw in the first half, they probably wouldn't have won that game, period. Now Brady struggled in the second half, but I just don't think he gets the credit that he deserves here. He went from New England to Tampa Bay, shortened offseason, new teammates, new system. He's still one of the best deep ball passers in the game. Obviously, he's the smartest quarterback in the league, and that's really where I think Chris misses the boat here. I really feel like Chris misses it when it comes to the intelligence of the position. I don't think that's taken into account enough based on his rankings year after year. As I've said, I'm a fan of Chris Sims and his podcast, and I've noticed a trend over the course of his rankings and his lists, and it's that he doesn't account for the IQ of the quarterback position, which arguably relies most on the IQ of any position in football. So I just feel like Tom Brady does not get the respect from Chris that he deserves for numerous reasons. I listed some of them, but I could go on and on and on. Obviously, I'm a big Brady fan, so I'm a bit biased, but I will say that almost everybody has him in the top 5, and Sims is just about the only person that does not. Okay, so Russell Wilson is number 5. Russell Wilson is great. I won't argue with that. He's a great improviser, got a great deep ball. We all know what Russell Wilson can do. I felt he took a step back late in the season, taking too many sacks, just felt a little indecisive, wasn't making the throws and the plays that he was earlier in the year. Don't know what that was about. Maybe teams kind of caught up to the offense, not sure. But 5 is understandable. I just think Brady should be ranked ahead of him. Lamar Jackson at number 6. That's where I have him. Number 7, Kyler Murray. This is a little off to me. I have Kyler Murray at number 11. 7 just feels too high because Kyler Murray, to me, I agree with Sims on what he said about Kyler Murray, that Cliff Kingsbury kind of holds him back. But Kyler Murray is still kind of inaccurate, especially in the intermediate range of the field. I don't think he reads the game the way that the 7th best quarterback really should or would or does. Like, Kyler Murray, I feel, is behind in terms of the processing of defenses and the IQ level that you need to be an elite quarterback. I just don't think Kyler's there yet. He can be. I just don't think he's there yet. Obviously, physically, he's very gifted. He's got a great arm, a great release. He's got awesome rushing ability and scrambling ability. But there was numerous games last year where I felt like he just wasn't good, period. And that wasn't just the offense, but that was also him making bad decisions, bad sacks, bad just throws in general. So Kyler to me is ranked too high. I would have him probably 5 spots-ish lower. Matthew Stafford at 8. I love that Chris gives the recognition to Stafford that I think he deserves. Obviously, his talent speaks for itself in terms of his arm talent, still top 3, top 4 in the league. And I think he's going to have a big season this year, so totally understandable to be ranked in the top 10. I think some people would disagree with me and Chris, but that's the way I feel and he feels. Number 9, Dak Prescott. Totally cool. I think I had Dak at number 9 as well. Tom Brady at number 10. We discussed that. Number 11, Justin Herbert. I have Justin Herbert in the top 10. I believe I had him at number 9 or number 10, somewhere in there. I think I had Tannehill 10, Herbert 9, and Stafford 7, and Dak 8. I think that's kind of what I had. Herbert 11. It's not too far off from what I have. That's cool. Like, Herbert's a stud. We all know this. I will say Sims was on him throughout the draft process. He really liked him. I think his only regret is not putting him first in the draft process and putting Joe Burrow ahead of him. Number 12 is Ryan Tannehill. Okay, yeah, I have number 10. I think he's been really productive, really consistent over the last 2 years as a passer, especially deep ball passer. So he has Kyler Murray ahead of him, where I do not, and he has Deshaun Watson on the list, and I do not. But obviously I'd have Deshaun Watson higher. So yeah, he's real close to where I have him. And then Baker Mayfield, 13. I agree. I think I had Baker at 13 or 14 or 12, somewhere in that range. Then you have Derek Carr at 14. I also had Derek Carr at number 14, I believe. Matt Ryan at number 15. Matt Ryan. This one was controversial for my list and his list. It's actually funny that we kind of have a similar list from number 13 to number 17. It's actually very similar. I have Cousins ranked ahead of Ryan. I have Cousins ranked ahead of Carr too, I think. I think Cousins is really good as a passer, and I know Sims recognizes that, and we both see kind of similar things in terms of Cousins. Doesn't really create outside of structure or anything like that, but he's very accurate. He's a great passer. He's obviously excellent off play action. But when you look at his stats, which I think I take a little bit more into account than Chris does, I mean, those stats consistently are at the top of the NFL year after year after year. And when it's something that's at the top of the league year after year after year, you have to be good, right? It's not a fluke every single year if it's just like that. And I feel like Cousins and Ryan, very, very, very similar players, but Cousins has just had better production than Ryan has, and they've had pretty similar offensive supporting cast, so that's why I rank Cousins higher than Ryan. I also think he probably has a stronger arm at this point. 17, Joe Burrow. We have the same ranking there. Carson Wentz at 18. I have him slightly lower at 19. I'm not really going to disagree. Carson Wentz has immense talent, but he also feels dumb as a sack of hammers to me, and he obviously was very bad last year. Now, when I listened to Sims on the pod talking about Carson Wentz, I felt like he made far too many excuses, because when you compare the way that Jalen Hurts played to the way that Carson Wentz played, Hurts actually played a lot better, in my opinion, than Carson Wentz with the same supporting cast, but Chris never really gave that any thought, so I kind of disagree with his take, although we kind of agree on the ranking. Sam Darnold at 19 I think is too high based on he hasn't done anything. If anything, he's kind of sucked. So I don't really agree that he's better than Cam or Jimmy or Ben for that matter. I had Ben at 18, I think. I still think Ben deserves to be in the top 20. Okay, he carried his team offensively for a large portion of the season. He has really not a great offensive line, no running game at all. His receivers dropped the ball more than any other team in the league. So Ben still is a top 20 quarterback just based on those circumstances alone, even if he does somewhat hold the team back because he's not quite the deep ball passer he is or was, and because he's not really accepting of play action and motion and all those new age things. He's still good, he's still talented, and I'd still take him over these guys ahead of him. There's no way I would take Sam Darnold ahead of Ben Roethlisberger for this year. There is no way. Like, if I was picking the team to win right now, Ben just has far too great of a track record for me to not take him over Sam Darnold. Now, Cam, I will say this. Sims is one of the few people that actually is in line with me on Cam Newton because we see it the same way. The Patriots supporting cast is the reason that Cam has kind of stunk with New England, even though he's played better than people thought. And because rushing is a part of the game, folks. But here's what bugs me about that, okay? He didn't say that about Tom Brady. He never said that about Tom Brady. So Tom Brady, this is why I'm confident that Cam will have a bounce back year. Because I saw the same thing with Brady. Brady went from a really bad supporting cast in New England to a really good one in Tampa Bay. All of a sudden, he's Tom frickin' Brady again. But Cam Newton, all of a sudden, he gets all these excuses from Sims. So that's where I just see a little bit of uneven kind of acknowledgement, in my opinion. But Cam Newton in the top 20, I think is where he belongs, guys, because of his dynamic nature on the ground. I know that a lot of people don't like the way he throws the ball, but I would actually go back and watch some of those games, and he was a lot better than you would remember. Obviously, his supporting cast stunk, but there were games in there where he played like a top 10 quarterback. And I think when you have a quarterback like that, even if he's inconsistent, you have to meet it somewhere in the middle, right? So even if he has bad games, well, all these guys at the bottom have bad games, but how many good games do they have? And Cam Newton has more good games than some of these other guys. So then he goes down the list. Jimmy Garoppolo, don't have a problem with that. I think we're about the same on Garoppolo. He's a fine quarterback. He can take you to a Super Bowl, obviously. He's good within a system. And all the things that he does well, I agree with Chris, the release, the accuracy, all that sort of stuff. But the injuries have hurt him. And I think he is kind of just an average quarterback at best. Ryan Fitzpatrick, hey, it's nice to see respect for Ryan Fitzpatrick, Mr. Magic. I mean, he's just really fun to watch. He's great for football. Obviously, he's not one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but he could do some damage on Washington. Don't sleep on Fitzpatrick in Washington at all. This is interesting. With the Saints, he has Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston at 24 and 25. I don't get this one. Okay, now Sim says it. Taysom Hill's a better quarterback than he thinks, and I have not heard a single Saints fan say that. So that has me a little concerned. Like every single Saints fan that I've spoken to, whether it's Turtle or any other person, they just say that Jameis is much better. He's the better option, and it's not really close. Now, Taysom Hill is an excellent athlete. He's arguably the best athlete in the entire sport when you consider how many positions he plays. But Jameis Winston is the better quarterback. I understand he threw 30 picks, but he also threw 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns last year. And he can make plays that Taysom Hill cannot make as a passer within the pocket and extending plays that way. Taysom Hill is a great athlete. He can run the ball better, but other than that, he's not really better at anything else. I mean, I don't think he's more accurate, although his accuracy is improved. His arm is strong, but Winston's arm is just as strong, if not stronger. And obviously, he's just a more refined passer and player at the position. So, yes, Taysom gives you something as a runner, but I don't think it's enough to offset how much better Winston is as a passer. Personally, number 26, Daniel Jones, I think is far too low. I'm actually really surprised that Chris had Daniel Jones this low. I think Daniel Jones is going to have a top 20 season this year. I really do think so. When you look at his PFF grading, which graded 17th, I think that really does take into account his accuracy down the field and actually the throws he made. Okay, the throws he made, even though the results weren't there, I think were very, very efficient. And the way that he talks about Daniel Jones, you would think he would rank him a lot higher, but he doesn't, which is just odd. I think Daniel Jones, although he didn't have a great season last year in terms of his stats, I just think the actual play was better than you would think. He makes more throws and plays and runs than you would think. Number 27, Zach Wilson. Number 28, Trevor Lawrence. We both agree that Zach Wilson is, surprisingly, both agree that Zach Wilson is better than Trevor Lawrence. And I will say this. Once I saw Zach Wilson's highlights and I heard Chris say that he was better than Trevor Lawrence, it gave me a little bit more confidence because he's been right about these guys quite often. So for us to see the same thing, that makes me kind of reconfirm my stance on a guy coming out the draft because of this track record Sims has had evaluating these players coming out of college specifically. I may disagree with the guys once they're in the NFL, but coming out of college, he has a pretty good track record. Not perfect, but pretty damn good. Number 29, Andy Dalton. Okay, I mean, I'm not going to complain about that. Although I would say this, I'll take Mac Jones over him any day of the week. Like any day of the week. But I will say, I respect the ranking with Mac Jones being in the top 32. I love Mac Jones. He's my favorite quarterback in the draft. Obviously, he's on my team. But yeah, he was my favorite. Not my top guy, but my favorite. I actually had him at number 2. I just think he's going to be a really good pro. He has immaculate intelligence and situational awareness and accuracy from a college quarterback that I've rarely ever seen, if ever. Number 31, Jared Goff. He stinks. He just sucks. Number 32, Teddy Bridgewater. That's a little surprising. I didn't rank Teddy Bridgewater because I don't expect him to start. I ranked Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock is better than Teddy Bridgewater. Or at least I'd rather start him. I don't know if he's better. I'd rather start him because he has a higher ceiling. So I'd rather see what he offers. So I can get it if you're ranking him based on talent. Okay, maybe Bridgewater's better. But Bridgewater, I think, is probably better than Goff, to be honest. I mean, where's John Wolford on this list? Because he outplayed Jared Goff for a good portion of the season. Tua, number 34. Yep, I agree. I think Tua is just nothing special, okay? He doesn't even have him as a top 32 quarterback, which is interesting. Number 35, Tyrod Taylor. Okay, I mean, I'm not going to get mad at that. Although I would say Mariota might be better than Tyrod right now. At least I think he's more worthy of an opportunity to start than Tyrod Taylor. I'll say that much. Number 37, Kellen Mond. Might be a little premature to put him in the top 40. There's probably a guy like, I would say, like Jacoby Brissett, who I might rank in the top 40 over a guy like Kellen Mond. Number 38, Trey Lance, I think should be ahead of Kellen Mond. And I would probably put him ahead of, 4 or 5, 6 guys above him on this list for sure. I'd have him closer to the top 30 than the top 40, if that makes sense. 39, Justin Fields. Same thing. I'm not a huge Fields guy, but I would put him above guys like Mond, Mariota, Tyrod Taylor, Tua, Drew Lock. I'd put him above all those guys. Case Keenum, okay, that's a little bit shocking. And there's some players that aren't on this list that a little bit shocking. Like I would say Jacoby Brissett, that type of guy. I would have to think who's really not on the list that should be on the list. But Case Keenum, he's proven he can win in the NFL. He's still got some talent. And he's a good backup, so I'm not going to hate on that. So that's Chris Sims' top 40 countdown for 2021. That's my view of things. That's my thoughts on things. I might have to make an entirely separate video about Tom Brady and his ranking of Tom Brady. I very much might. Let me know if you would like to see that, if you'd like to see me rant about this ranking on Tom Brady, because I'm just kind of sick of his disrespect for Tom Brady. I just kind of am. But again, fan of Chris, fan of his list every year. I always enjoy it. I always listen to the conversations, and I think you should too, because even if you disagree, you'll learn more about the NFL. Thanks, guys, for watching. It's Mitch. Make sure you do Gronk, spike that like button, subscribe for more just like this. Peace!